Episode 7 of The Mandalorian is out early this week so that it wouldn't clash with the release of The Rise of Skywalker. This episode's called The Reckoning, and I was told that it had something to do with The Rise of Skywalker, and you needed to see this episode before you see The Rise of Skywalker. Now, I was told that by someone that hasn't seen either of them, so just based upon something they'd read somewhere, but I thought I'd better watch it before I do, in fact, see The Rise of Skywalker. And as far as that's concerned, and I haven't seen The Rise of Skywalker yet, there wasn't anything very obvious like a little baby Rey running around or any kind of character that I think may very well be in The Rise of Skywalker. I know that there is a new general in The Rise of Skywalker. I think he's called General Pride. I don't believe there was a younger version of him in this episode, so nothing I saw that was very obvious that there is in fact a tie-in. Now, there was one thing, and I guess this is a spoiler perhaps for Rise of Skywalker, although again I haven't seen Rise of Skywalker. I don't know if this actually happens in it, but sort of be warned, just for a very minor thing. Baby Yoda uses a force power in this episode, and from some of the earlier leaks that force power is used by someone in The Rise of Skywalker, and so that may be a tie-in just to show that, if Baby Yoda is in fact untrained and can use force powers, that may explain why it's someone else that perhaps isn't trained or hasn't shown how to use this power in the past could in fact use the power in The Rise of Skywalker. So I don't know if that happens at all in The Rise of Skywalker, but I suppose that could be what the little tie-in is, if there is one. But again, I didn't really notice anything I think could obviously have to do with The Rise of Skywalker. As far as this episode goes, The Reckoning, it's probably the best or the second best episode of The Mandalorian so far. The first episode was good, so maybe you could say this isn't quite as good as the first episode that establishes everything, but I think after the first episode, and really after the second episode, it's been fairly lacking in that nothing's been explained at all. So it's very understandable that you don't really know what's happening at the start, but someone's been going after the Mandalorian each week to kill the Baby Yoda, or to get the Baby Yoda, but we're not really told anything extra as to what's happening. He's meeting up a new person, he's going to a different planet every week, but that's about it. We haven't had progress in the plot. Well, this puts us back on track with progress. There is some plot development here, and we don't really still know what's going on, but there's progress in that regards, and so from that point of view, I think the episode was excellent. We get a little bit more of Baby Yoda doing some Baby Yoda stuff, which progresses that a little bit further, and we get a little bit of a reunion here as well. So all of the good stuff that's been in The Mandalorian so far, it's all back here in this episode, and I highly recommend watching it without getting spoiled perhaps, but if you haven't seen it and you want to get spoiled, well, I don't have anything else to say about the episode other than spoilers, so be warned, spoilers ahoy. So at the start of this episode, we get a little transmission from Carl Weathers. Carl Weathers is talking to the Mandalorian, and he's telling him that I'm alive and you're still alive, let bygones be bygones. I need your help. I need to hire you now to get rid of the original client. The original Imperial client has taken over my town, and I can't do business here anymore, so I need you to help me kill off the guy that's been sending people out to kill you. And I did think straight away, Admiral Akbar style, it's a trap. There is no way that this is what's happening. This just smells completely fishy. Now, having said that, all of the promo stuff for this had three people doing it. We had the Mandalorian doing the stuff with Pedro Pascal, we had Carl Weathers, and we had Cara Dune doing all of the promotions together. And it seemed to me like the three of them were the main people in the series, and they're all going to be teaming up together. And because he'd already fought Carl Weathers, I did think there was a chance, or maybe it wasn't a trap. Maybe they are in fact going to team up together. So the Mandalorian decides he needs some help to do this job, and so he goes to get Cara Dune back. Wherever he left her, she's in a bar doing a futuristic MMA fight for money. She agrees to accompany him, and he goes to get Little Pigman, played by Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte's actually repaired the IG-11 from the first episode, and they all get on board the ship, and they also bring along three of those little creatures that they ride. Now, around about here where they're flying towards the planet that Carl Weathers is on, that the Imperial guys are also on and that wanted to abduct the Baby Yoda, they're talking about this is where they're heading to, and the Baby Yoda is eavesdropping on them. He's looking around. He's got his head down there. He knows exactly what's going on. He's pretending to be this little cute, little tiny baby that doesn't know what's happening. It knows what's happening. It knows exactly what's happening. It's not talking to anyone yet. Either it can't talk or it's decided to not talk because it'd be in its best interest if everyone thinks it's thick. It's not thick. It knows exactly what's going on, and it goes up and takes control of the ship, and it tries to fly the ship around to stop it getting to its destination. I guess it doesn't know how to really engage the hyperdrive to actually go to a different planet, but it takes control of the ship. It knows what's going on. This isn't just a little baby. So a little bit later on, the Mandalorian is having an arm wrestle with Cara Dune, and Baby Yoda must think that his buddy the Mandalorian is in trouble, and so it closes the eyes, it puts the hand up, and it's going to do a bit of force powers, and I assumed it's going to do a little bit of force pull or force push to help the Mandalorian cheat to actually win the arm wrestling. No. It force chokes Cara Dune. I can't believe it did a force choke on her, and so she starts choking to death, and they kind of realize that the Baby Yoda's doing this, and they sort of grab it, and it stops. But it's doing some dark side force powers now as well. So Baby Yoda doing a little bit of force choking on people. Don't turn your back on Baby Yoda. So the whole group lands on the planet, meets up with Carl Weathers, and Carl Weathers got a couple of guys with him as well to help out. During the night, as they're making their way towards the town, they stop for some food to eat, and they get attacked by some big pterodactyl-looking monsters. One of Carl Weathers' guys gets grabbed and taken away, and Carl Weathers gets his arm all busted up, and he's talking about being poisoned, and he's dying, he's in some trouble. They don't have any medpacks or enough medpacks to fix him up, and Baby Yoda comes towards him, and I actually laughed when Carl Weathers says, "Get him away, he's trying to eat me." So I thought that's kind of funny. But Baby Yoda puts his hand on him, and he does a bit of force healing, and the arm is all healed up, and that's perhaps the little tie-in that will happen in Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Someone, seemingly in some of the leaks early on, so these are old leaks, does a bit of force healing. So here is Baby Yoda, who perhaps hasn't been trained, but maybe has. We don't know if he's not had any training, but he's maybe not been trained and he can instinctively do healing, so perhaps that'll explain how someone else can instinctively do healing, if that happens. And so the next morning, the whole group heads towards the town, and on the way there, Carl Weathers shoots the rest of his men in the back, and he explains to them that it was a trap. It was about the worst set-up trap in history of traps, but he said that he was hired to lure the Mandalorian and the baby to the original guy, but because he got healed up by the Baby Yoda, and he seems a bit infatuated by the Baby Yoda, he's decided that, he can't betray them after they helped him, so he killed his own men. And they go in there to sort of do the original plan he said they're going to do. They're going to try to actually kill the original Imperial guy. And so the plan gets just a little bit strange now. The Mandalorian decides that they'll give the Baby Yoda to the Pigman, and the Pigman's going to head back to the ship. And I believe the IG-11 must still be on board the ship because we don't really see it again. So Pigman's been sent back with the baby to go to the ship, while the Mandalorian puts on some fake handcuffs and gives his gun away to the other guys, and they pretend that they've captured the Mandalorian, and they're going to hand him back in. They bring the little floating crib thing with them, but they have it shut so that presumably the Imperials will think that the Baby Yoda is actually inside. So they do the prisoner exchange. They all kind of sit down. They're going to hand over the Mandalorian and the Baby Yoda, although the Baby Yoda isn't really inside the crib. And before this can happen, the Imperial guy gets an incoming hologram, and it turns out to be his boss. He's a Grand Moff that is still alive, and the Grand Moff decides to just shoot up the room. And so a whole pile of laser blasters come in from outside, and basically everyone in the room dies except for the good guys, I guess, as to be expected. And when all the smoke clears, we've got some of the dark stormtroopers, I think they're called Death Troopers, that were in Rogue One. We've got a whole pile of normal stormtroopers, and then we get a TIE fighter that comes in. The TIE fighter's wings actually bend in half, or fold in half, and it has landing gear. I think it was called the TIE Outsider, or Outlander. It was a vehicle that was leaked early on when The Mandalorian was first released. And out of this TIE fighter, the Grand Moff makes his appearance. Now, during this, the Mandalorian has been communicating back with the Pigman to see, are you back at the ship yet? Have you got back to the ship yet? And some of the Imperial stormtroopers, the scout troopers with the bikes, the speeder bikes, they intercept the call. and I guess they trace the call, and they actually go speeding out to go find the Pigman. So the Pigman's on the relatively slow creature he rides, and he's got the Baby Yoda with him, and then the speeder bikes are chasing after him. And then we kind of go back to what's happening with the rest of the heroes. And the Grand Moff he's not really bargaining with them. He's basically telling them, I'll soon have the Yoda. I guess he's been told by the stormtroopers they're on the way to get the Yoda or something like that. But he just tells them that you don't understand how important this creature is to me, and I'll soon have it. He's not really negotiating per se. And it looks like, there's going to be a big fight going on. We've got not many people inside the building, a whole pile of people outside the building. And then at the very end of the episode, we then go back to see what kind of progress the Pigman's got to get back to the Mandalorian spaceship. And all we see is a little bundle on the ground, and it looks like Baby Yoda is lying on the ground. We then get another view, and we can see the Pigman's been killed. So it looks like the scout troopers have been able to shoot him down with their speeder bikes, which you would really expect that would happen. We definitely don't see that, but it looks like they've killed him, and then they drive by the Baby Yoda, or at least what appears to be the Baby Yoda. They pick him up, and they drive back, and the episode ends. So all in all, a pretty good episode, as I said at the start. Perhaps the best episode so far. Maybe the first episode's better, but certainly better than the recent episodes. There's not really been anything wrong with them, but they haven't really progressed the plot at all. This has progressed the plot, and it looks like the last episode of the series, which is episode 8, the next one, that's going to have a massive shootout at the start. We've obviously got a whole pile of people surrounding the good guys. They're horribly outnumbered, and the Baby Yoda is on the way to this guy. So maybe the Baby Yoda will save the day of some Force powers, but that's what looks to be getting set up for episode 8, the last episode this season. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.